This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
This is Everything Elite, the world's best podcast devoted exclusively to all elite wrestling and the elite extended universe. I'm Aaron Bentley. No one sent me a spreadsheet, so I'm just going to go to Iron Mike Spears joining us. What's up, Mike?
I mean, I have to go back and re-listen to all those things if I'm going to put together any sort of spreadsheet. Hey, y'all. It's your old pal, Iron Mike Spears. I'm doing pretty well. We had a tropical storm roll through here and got a lot of rain, but I'm doing all right. I feel invigorated after last night's show. I'm really feeling the energy of one Mickey Gooch Jr., and that gets me ready to get through today's show. How are you doing, AB?
I'm doing fine. I now really worried about who I go to first on any given thing on this show. A lot of anxiety has been mainlined into my veins, and so yeah, that's basically it. Speaking of, Nate's here, aka Epitasis. What's up, Nate?
Speaking of what exactly? Speaking of mainlining anxiety?
No, I don't know if you mainline anxiety, but speaking of, different orders, now you're second. I don't know how anybody feels, but
I try not to mainline anxiety. Tried to kick that habit. Eating a banana. It's pretty warm, a little too warm for my tastes. Really about it. Over here in the Nate department.
All right. I guess, I think about podcasts that I like, right? That have more than one person. And the starters, for example, I don't know what they're called now.
No dunks.
No dunks. That's right. I haven't listened in a while since there's no basketball. But, you got your Skeets. And your Skeets always goes to Tass first. Then you get your usually Lee and then Trey. It's kind of how it breaks down.
That sounds about right. Seems like a clockwise orientation.
Could be.
Because Trey's usually standing at the desk. I'm imagining the TV set now.
That's true. I just assume it's by seniority.
Right. Okay.
I don't know if that's true or not. But anyway.
Yeah, I think Lee might have joined after Trey, but I don't
actually know.
Specifically recall.
Yeah. Anyway,
You think Trey? No. I also have not been watching. Trey followed our account. No interactions.
No.
Do we think he's watching AEW? Because they made a lot of WWE references.
I've never listened to the show, but I have to believe that he watches. I think he did mention Orange Cassidy at some point.
That sounds right. Okay.
So, he's at least familiar. I don't know if he
doesn't follow all the accounts. We just happened to add him and he threw us a follow pretty much right away.
He's still following. I just checked.
Yeah, no faves. No indication otherwise. I'd like to talk to him about Susie's Pizza in Plano, Illinois. But no opportunity thus far.
Now I'm looking at who Trey follows.
Yeah.
Some funny ones in here. Braden Stroud.
Yeah. Yeah, that's someone.
Also, he's an F1 guy. I learned.
Oh, that's right. You guys, he's on your F1 podcast or whatever. He plugged the F1 podcast you guys like.
Yeah. He's buddies with them, I guess. But anyway, so there you go. That's a little conversation about Trey Kirby to start this AEW podcast.
Former Turner employee.
That's right. Sorry, Trey, if you're listening. Bringing up bad memories. But, I mean, they probably don't want to plug AEW. They're probably, the Turner thing. Probably irritating.
Bad blood. Or just better blood, maybe.
Well, if you want to follow us like Trey Kirby, you can find us at Everything AEW. I'm at Aaron Like the Car. Nate is at Epitasis. Mike is at Fuji Heya. You can subscribe to the podcast. Please do. Give us a rating and review if you're using the Apple Podcast app. And you can check out our Patreon, patreon.com/everythingelite for more content from me and Mike and Nate. Lots of good stuff on there. We'll talk later about what's going to be on there coming up soon. Today on the show, we're going to play Elite or Delete. We're going to run down Dynamite from last night. We'll talk about the ratings. And I feel confident we will talk a little bit about Double or Nothing as we go through what happened on Dynamite. If you want our full Double or Nothing review, we did an instant reaction show with Murder Brian Quimby of Street Fight Radio, and that is available on patreon.com/everythingelite for all $5 and $8 subscribers. But first, let's start with Elite or Delete.
Delete! Elite! Delete! Elite! Delete! Elite! Elite! Delete! Elite! Delete!
I don't know. I have just traditionally started with Nate here. I'm going to stick with it. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but it's what I'm going to do. So, Nate, give us your Elite pick of the week.
All right, my Elite pick. I thought this was kind of an unusual show in that basically I had a lot of gripes and I had a lot of stuff that I didn't think landed or was executed very well, but I still came away from the show, a little more energized about the direction of the promotion. But for my Elite pick, I'm going to pick, I think, the one thing that did fulfill its complete potential, executed to the fullest extent possible in terms of what they were trying to accomplish with the segment and what they actually did accomplish with the segment. And that's the Brian Cage versus Lee Johnson match with Jon Moxley on commentary, Taz managing. I thought it was great. I'm very high on the Brian Cage and Taz partnership. I think it would be great if Brian Cage just never left his feet again and just threw suplexes all day long, especially to job guys, and just tossed them all over the ring. That would be tremendous. This promotion is just overflowing with hosses now, and Brian Cage is an exciting one. Maybe he can bust out, his flippy doos or whatever on an occasional pay-per-view, but I would just like to see him throwing job guys around, really until the audiences force them to do something different. And escalated the upcoming match with Jon Moxley pretty well. I thought Jon Moxley was good on commentary. His, personality shines through. You get some of his humor and charisma, and it, doesn't feel as forced or manufactured as it might in a discreet promo. So yeah, good segment.
Yeah, and I think we have to come to terms with the fact that AEW now is a body guy promotion. Like, someone call Ethan Page, as played by Julian, that his body guy extravaganza has been usurped now because we have Cage, we have Wardlow, Mickey Gooch is the biggest body guy of them all. I mean, what can we say there? And it's something that Cage was someone that I remember in January we were talking a little bit about, like he was free and clear and everyone was like, oh, looks like he's going to AEW, and it turned out he was going to AEW. I was a little bit of reticence about it just because how he kind of, in a certain way, just was getting such to like an extent that it wasn't as interesting and like this. However, having him very focused in on throwing people around, having Taz in there doing a really solid job of being his coach, manager, whatever they're going to decide to call him. I feel like it's a good complete package, and especially for how they're going to build this up. I mean, eventually, I think interesting stories could be told about like Mox's title reign is that whereas Jericho had like the Jericho reign of going to like Cody, Darby Allin, Scorpio Sky, the little mini feud with Jungle Boy, and finally ending on Moxley, like there was a lot of different like levels to it. And now we see that like Moxley is doing like this like monster run. And I find that kind of interesting because that's not how I was going to expect this thing to go for Moxley. I think it's pretty cool. I mean, we've already had him go against Hager. He's coming off his one against Brody Lee, and his idea that this guy somehow is able to survive everyone. And I felt like that the squash here, especially with Lee Johnson, he's been the MVP of all the jobber guys, local talent, the up and comers have been around here. I felt like that Lee Johnson looked great here, just like how Lee Johnson looked great when he faced Wardlow. So I think like this was a full score 100 across all categories for this segment.
Yeah, I do think on the topic of Moxley's title reign, something that has proven to be true or appears to be true is Tony likes to book things and angles and stories that have been successful in the past in pro wrestling. So just doing a monster of the month or a monster of the quarter kind of story for your champion, it's like prototypical Hulk Hogan, John Cena stuff. So, it should work.
I hadn't thought that about the Jericho title run. I guess this isn't timely, but he didn't beat anybody of consequence clean.
Huh.
Even Scorpio. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. His biggest cleanest victory was Robbie Omega on the first show.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably true. But I mean, that they did it the right way. I mean, he was never booked as like a guy who could beat everybody. He was booked as a chicken shit heel, right? And so they went about it the right way. It's interesting now. I hadn't thought about it to look back and realize how good a job they did with that title reign. I might have gone longer with it, but they did a good job with it. So it's interesting to see what happens with Moxley. I agree about the cage match and keeping him grounded and just letting him focus on one specific thing. There's plenty of guys in this promotion who can fly. He doesn't have to, and it's not interesting anymore that big guys can do flips. Like we've seen plenty of that. So it's more interesting in this promotion. It's more interesting for him to be a big, muscly guy who can just beat the shit out of people.
And it's more effective if you're using these flips sparingly. Like I think Wardlow did his top rope senton once in the cage match, and that's it. We haven't seen it from him since. If Brian Cage is going to do something like incredibly like agility specific, save it for the bigger matches. He should just be throwing everyone around until he faces Moxley, and maybe that's where he has to kick into the next gear. So I think they've done real effective. I think it's real effective how they decided to go like, all right, big guys, you're big. Focus on being big. So I mean, Trent was big now last year or 2 years ago. Now we need to focus on all these guys who are big now, right now.
All right, Mike. Does that play into your elite pick, or are you going to take us a different way?
I mean, for me this week, and even into today, nothing has amused me more than the group of people that Mike Tyson had with him at the end angle, like the whole entire end segment. I know that some people were like, oh, this looked really hacky. I thought it was really amusing. You had another great inner circle angle where they are just bigging each other up. You can buy your t-shirts on pwtees.com. They've marked it for half off, which is hilarious to me that the dead stock Super Bowl loser t-shirts are that way. We had an instance of chopped cheese, which Excalibur went on national TV. That's tremendous. We've had the god himself, Mark Antony, being referenced here. And then we had this really just ridiculous and just ridiculous in the right ways. Like I know I say the word ridiculous a lot here, but Chris Jericho being so pissed off about a dumb thing that happened in the guest GM era of Monday Night Raw, calling out Mike Tyson. And Mike Tyson comes out and he has Henry Cejudo, who just looks like a complete, like he's just like hopping around everywhere and he's just like really mad. Rashad Evans, Vito Belfort somehow of all people is the person who's really overshadowed because who became kind of the online star of the segment is one Mickey Gooch Jr., the guy who came out with like eye black with like what I guess is the Tyson Ranch t-shirt, was it? Or like it's like a Mike Tyson related t-shirt on with water poured all down it.
Oat said that it appears to be a Tyson Ranch t-shirt, but upon further inspection, he appears to have made it himself using the same substance that he used to paint his eye black.
Fantastic. And then somehow they
just insane to have that guy like so prominently front and center among that group of people. Like he's
right, Vito Belfort of all people.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. You have this random guy who's an actor who his dad's like some weird businessman who's managed to get his way in here because he's done movies with Chris Jericho and is a friend of Mike Tyson. And he just draws your eye and it's so ridiculous. And you have the insane pull apart. And as everything, like everyone who's been like naysaying the segment, this has gotten them like the mainstream coverage that you don't necessarily see with pro wrestling. And then when other companies have tried in the past, it's fallen flat. There's a reason why this is so successful. And I mean, we've talked about the ups and downs about having Mike Tyson around. This is why you have someone like this around. Like you deal with like all the trappings of Mike Tyson because he is going to still get the interest here. And now we have the idea of, are we going to have like some weird Chris Jericho versus Mike Tyson boxing match or something? Like there's a lot of wild ways to go. Are we going to get Mike Tyson and Mickey Gooch Jr. versus Jericho and Sammy Guevara? Are we going to get like a full on, like, is this what the new Blood and Guts match is going to be? Tyson squad versus Inner Circle. There's a lot of ways to go with this. And I just come out of like last night's go home segment. I like the final segment as like, this is one of the more bizarre things I think this company has done, but it's incredibly entertaining and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I don't know that it was as effective like in the moment as they wanted it to be. Like the pull apart between Jericho and Tyson, I'm not sure that had a ton of heat. The way it went, I mean, Tyson clearly was just like doing whatever the fuck he wanted, and Jericho's trying to make the best of it, you know, and it was funny. I'm not sure if it I think, Nate, I believe you said this earlier in a chat, but it's like, you can't recreate Austin and Tyson because Austin was one of the biggest stars in the fucking world when they shot that, and Tyson was a huge star too. So I'm not sure you're ever going to have however many millions of people watch that. And,
of course not. Of course
right.
not.
So it's not going to work. So I don't know. It probably went as well as it could if there's going to be a match. Like I really wanted Tyson to hit Jericho.
Right.
But if they're going to get physical later, then that's fine for me. I do want to say, I think I was flippant a few episodes ago when we first talked about Tyson. Like if people are uncomfortable about Tyson, I understand that. And I don't have any problem with it. Like
sure.
Completely get it. My personal opinion is that he was convicted of a crime, served time in prison, has been contrite about it since, after saying some really fucked up stuff when he was first convicted, and has been remorseful since then. And I think someone shouldn't just be thrown away forever because of a thing that they did. So, but I just wanted to be clear that I don't think it's insane to be like, fuck this, I don't want to watch this if Tyson's on it. But if he's going to be here, I don't have a problem with it. And it seems to me they've got Tyson signed to like be around for a little while and do something. So it's intriguing, whatever's coming next.
Yeah. And like the only depressing thing about this is this was the show that was supposed to be from the MGM Grand right after Double or Nothing. Like imagine what could have happened like in Vegas of all places if this was happening. Like that's like the one thing that I come away from is like, you could tell this is a moment that they've had in their back pocket for a while. And this was the plan. And it does seem like Tyson's going to be around. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be a Fighter Fest thing, or I don't know if it's something that's like, hey, we're going to see if we can do this until All Out, because it's going to be interesting to see how this can go.
Yeah, I will. I certainly second that the entourage was a highlight. In a lot of ways, just the weird cavalcade of characters you had out there kind of salvaged the segment, I think. Just because it was a pretty good, I mean, it started off with just straight comedy, pure comedy segment from the Inner Circle. And you have Tyson coming out, who, as I discussed on the, instant reaction show, is like not really an imposing presence anymore. Like he's kind of, he's an older, awkward kind of guy now who, is caught yawning at ringside when they put the camera on him and stuff. Like he's not like a menacing or intimidating presence. He kind of like, you look at the backstage footage from Double or Nothing last year, and he's like just giggling to Michael Nakazawa's oil spot. Like that's my perception of Mike Tyson now, not like the killer Mike Tyson from however many years ago. So the entourage, having those other legit guys out there, Cejudo and Evans and Belfort, like kind of just made it so weird that it was impossible to be bad. Like it was just so weird and insane and unpredictable that it has to be considered a success in that regard. And, it's got, I think, 1.3 million views on YouTube now. So it's certainly been a success as far as getting some attention and getting some headlines and stuff. But I'm kind of two minds about it, because that's all good. Tyson is proving that he has some value, in attracting viewers to this show and attracting viewers to the pay-per-view. But it was just like so goofy, and it was following up a goofy segment from Chris Jericho. It was building on a extremely goofy Raw segment from 10 years ago with Hornswoggle era Degeneration X. And then, Tyson's out there just like kind of being naturally goofy and having trouble ripping his shirt and stuff and all this stuff. So it is like, that's all fun and I enjoyed it, but it is kind of a little bit sour that it's like, oh, we're never really going to see a super hot crowd go crazy to see two guys go nose to nose because they're perceived as being the toughest sons of bitches on the planet or whatever. Like, I do kind of just miss that. And that, we're just not going to get that.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair assumption that like we are now 22 years after that. And with everything that like without getting like the greater conversation about like Mike Tyson rehabilitation, at least in the popular culture, he's thoroughly away from being the most dangerous man on earth. Like this is not Iron Mike Tyson, the first round knockout king, that young knockout kid, the real one. This is not who he is now. And you have Chris Jericho, who I find Chris Jericho a very interesting character because he does play like this just boisterous heel. Like he's a complete goof. He's like he's straight out a Confederacy of Dunces kind of character. And with Mike Tyson, like I think that almost your expectation now is it has to be somewhat goofy. So like him not being able to rip off his shirt and them just kind of go like this, and the fact that neither of them got at each other and just you had the weirdness of like Vito Belfort. It's still something I'm wrapping my head around, that Vito Belfort, the Pride legend, the guy that had like the highest ever testosterone test ever in like UFC, is doing this. And I think like that's how it's good, because you're not going to get what y'all have been talking about from like 1998 Austin versus with Tyson and Michaels in the background. Like you're just not going to. So I feel like this is the best use of it.
I mean, frankly, if we look at how the Inner Circle has been played over the past few months, I mean, this is supposed to be goofy, right? We're not supposed to look at this as like, oh God, who can win? Who's the badder guy between Chris Jericho and Mike Tyson? Like, I think we're supposed to be having fun with it.
Yeah, I think so.
It's just, it's a different thing. I mean, consider that it is built on what you talked about, Nate, on a thing that involved fucking Hornswoggle, like, now I don't mind that. I like that AEW acknowledges that it's part of a broader landscape of pro wrestling.
Yeah, that's acknowledging that continuity is like a huge, plus in favor of AEW, that they, acknowledge other promotions exist and makes it seem like there's some sort of shared reality to pro wrestling. But it's like Chris Jericho's really mad about that. Like, I'm sure if you watch that Raw back, it would be absolutely cringeworthy and terrible. So it just kind of, I don't know, just weird.
I saw just like a 20-second clip or something that was floating around on Twitter of it. I think from Lion Ratton, I think, was the one who tweeted it. And it was funny because Tyson tried to rip his shirt off and couldn't, and he had to just take it off.
I was like, oh, it's actually a callback. He didn't fuck up. He just
That's right.
The callback. Yeah, we
did a great storyteller.
Yeah, we were joking, and Mike tweeted about, they should do Jaredism with Chris Jericho and have him, he should put on boxing gloves and be like, oh, do the Conor McGregor thing. Oh, I'm a better boxer, actually. Like, I can outbox this guy too, even though I'm, primarily a pro wrestler. And they should specifically have him want to get revenge on Hornswoggle too.
Yes. Absolutely.
Hornswoggle's available. Just do Jericho versus Hornswoggle in a boxing match and have Jericho destroy him for heel heat. I think that's a tremendous piece of business.
There's a lot of miles that you can get out of this, and especially it's a good idea that Jericho is kind of like, you're turning Jericho towards this, especially right now. Like, you've had that run, and the idea that the Inner Circle have never been super serious heels, other than like they will take you out. There's always been this underlining vein of comedy throughout all of them, that I think that they aren't just like ruining people or abandoning like their roots. This is who they've been pretty much ever since like the Thanksgiving promo, where they were the first time that Santana and Ortiz brought people Vicks Vapor up. Like, this is a part of their character. So Jericho has to go all out here. We have to see him do punching the speed bag. We have to see him fight some cans. Swoggle would be a great person to do this, that just like gets like this. I think that eventually you have to reenact the Buster Douglas fight somehow. I think like there's some way you should do this, like after like all this happens, he gets like knocked out suddenly and they build it from the Tokyo Dome. Like, there's ways you can do this. I think could be really funny.
I mean, Jericho is funny and the other guys are funny. I don't know that they want to be like a top group of clown heels though, right? Like they did. I'm thinking of the Spike angle with Moxley, which they played seriously. It was like, no, I'm going to fuck you up. I'm going to stab you in the eye and you're going to wear an eye patch now. Like, it would be nice to keep that in the back pocket and be like, okay, but we are going to try and pretend this is serious pro wrestling a little bit, right? That's all I'm saying.
Oh, no, I think that's fair, but I think that they always have that edge. I mean, they took out Nick Jackson. They made a big deal about all those things like there. So I just think that you can't completely say all this stuff is ruining people because this is what they've been doing all along.
No, and didn't say that.
Yeah, I mean, they did what was it? The New Year's? Was it the New Year's thing or Christmas?
It was in Chicago. It was in the Sears
Thanksgiving.
thing,
Yeah.
with Ted Irving there.
So I think they've done a good job of going back and forth. They can be goofy, but they can be serious when it's necessary. And that's largely been related to if Jericho has like a high level serious feud going on, right? If he's feuding over the title with Cody, then that's going to be serious, or with Moxley. But he's not really needed in that role right now because they've taken the title off him, and they've got honestly a bunch of stars right now in AEW. So he can kind of do this and entertain people. And I think this draws eyeballs, not just the Tyson stuff, but I think enough of this Jericho stuff can get people to watch and discover other things. So I don't think Nate said this, but I reject the idea that they're getting too silly, that it's going to ruin everybody in the inner circle or whatever. I'm not concerned about that at all. I don't think it would ruin it, but I would prefer to occasionally see them be serious, like you said. Yeah. But at this point, I'm enjoying the balance. My favorite thing from the show, my elite pick, one where I think this might be my biggest difference from basically everything I've seen that people have said about the show. I truly loved the Revival or FTR debut. It's going to take me a while to not call them the Revival, probably, but I thought it was excellent. Once they got out of the truck thing is very stupid, and they should stop doing that at Daly's Place.
It's a fantastic truck.
I don't mind the truck. I just don't like the trope.
Look, it wouldn't be a trope except Cody just stole their big entrance like 2 weeks prior, which nice. Is so strange.
Cody?
Ace, that's real Ace energy right there.
That's real executive vice president privilege.
Yes.
It's like, we're going to have these guys debut. And I mean, I'm just assuming the Revival idea came first, because it doesn't make sense to me to run that angle back when nobody liked it the first time. So unless you were already, I don't know. Anyway, go on.
So they come out, and at first it's like, oh, this is just kind of vaguely exciting. It's like you weren't necessarily expecting it. Enough time had passed that you're like, oh yeah, I wonder when those guys will show up or whatever. But that's cool. I like the look. I heard people talking about it being too simple. I like the look that they came out with. But the most important part to me is everyone's expecting you jump things off with the Young Bucks versus the Revival. That's the big story everybody's waiting on. And immediately they start teasing okay, are they going to attack the Bucks? Are they going to attack the other team that was in the ring that I can't remember right now?
It was the motherfucking Butcher
and the Blade.
Yeah, you're right. Butcher the Blade. I'm sorry. So they attack the Butcher the Blade, but then they don't like make friends immediately with the Young Bucks. They give us a little bit of something there to chew on, to think about, and something that can build over many months before they do the Bucks versus the Revival. So I thought it was a great way to play against expectations and get us interested in seeing what's coming next, rather than knowing the steps that they're going to take to get to that.
Yeah, I liked the concept or the premise of it, right? So this is my thing with this show is I thought there was a lot of stuff that just didn't live up to its full potential. And this is kind of the same way. Just the execution, whatever, it was just a little bit too awkward. Them throwing their moves on the Butcher and doing stuff just looked a little bit out of step. Everybody was a half step off, where it just kind of dimmed to me what could have been super hot. But yeah, and it was cute. They did the denim thing, which the Best Friends also did at the Double or Nothing press conference last year, because it was Scott Hall Day, and that's when you show up at a new promotion wearing all denim, which is cute and fun, except that somebody had already done it in this promotion. And two, just looked very basic and not, obviously their gimmick is like no frills. We just fight. We're not here to wear ridiculous costumes and shit, but there's something more distinctive than just wearing Canadian tuxedos, kind of. But yeah, I like the concept and the idea, especially because you couldn't get the giant pop by debuting them in front of a crowd here. If you can hold off on the Young Bucks match until you can get in front of a big crowd that's going to appreciate it, I think that's better. So if you're going to have the Revival or fuck the rest run through the Butcher and the Blade and these other people, then I'm great with that.
Yeah, I really like the idea of how they've laid out the future for the tag team division with this, because really you have something now to keep the FTR busy up until I guess All Out. I'm going to keep on saying All Out, because that's where we're building towards next. And they could have this motherfucking Butcher and the motherfucking Blade match happen at Fyter Fest. And you give mileage there, and you could bring that together, as Nate said, in front of a bigger crowd. I think like the big vibe I got from this, and I mean, I'm someone that I think that they are generally fine. I in almost all the feuds that they had that are so lauded, I'm a bigger fan of the other tag teams in those feuds. So that's whatever. I'm excited to see what could happen with this, but it's something where I think it's so true to who they are as characters, the fact that they did kind of come in like how a new tag team enters a territory. It's not like the huge like pomp and circumstance. They come in, they help the local big face tag team out. They get them out of the jam. They're like give them they're eyeing each other down. I feel like that's like a nice touch. The thing that I kind of came out of this week thinking, and this is something that I wasn't going to expect that they were going to be in this kind of position to be in right now, is they've put together a sneaky, really interesting tag team division over the last like 6 weeks. They've really kind of put it together. We have some like delineations between who are the top tag teams, who are like the ones on the ascent. We have the jobber tag teams. We have like the younger tag teams. And I mean, just like looking at how the shows have been for like the last few weeks, we're starting to see a whole lot. And it's even with Lucha Brothers being on the shelf because of Penta El Cero not being able to come over. So like there's a lot of things here that I find really interesting. And I think that having FTR in this division opens up a whole lot of different things. I mean, when you get beyond the Bucks, I mean, I wonder what a Best Friends versus FTR match would be. I wonder what a Private Party versus FTR match would be. So I think it's a real interesting addition. It's one that wasn't necessarily high on initially, but the more I think about it, the more I like how this really gives them a lot of toys to play with.
All right, well, let's talk about the stuff that we did not like. Nate, what is your delete pick of the week?
All right, my delete pick, I was tweeting about this. I would call them little quality control errors or issues, or, continuity issues or plot holes, that just little things that become, a little annoying voice in the back of your head. And this show just seemed like it had more of them than usual. This began on Dark, but Allie now suddenly is normal and flirting with QT Marshall or whatever. This absolutely could be just a build to her, betraying him and selling him out to the Butcher and the Blade or whatever. And this is a longer angle building to a feud there or something. But no explanation of it, really. No mention of it on commentary. The commentary does not point out, oh, that's Allie, the bunny. I wonder why she's not with the Butcher and the Blade. They seem to have just like ignored that. She's not at ringside with the Butcher and the Blade, and just no explanation for that. They did a number one contender tag match on this show to set up the next tag team title challengers when they just did one on the buy-in on the pay-per-view. And now that's for Fyter Fest apparently. And this other tag team gets a intervening tag title shot, which just doesn't make sense if you're doing a sports-based wins and losses promotion. Like, you don't have one guy challenge and then an interceding challenger challenges just because they won a match more recently. I mean, maybe you could, but just it begs the question, and I would rather not have the question be begged. And then, just, little sort of the premise of like the championship t-shirts for the Inner Circle is like a funny premise. It's like, oh, we got these shirts printed up because we assumed we were going to win. You can tie that into the pep rally they did. Be like, oh, we had already scheduled the pep rally for this show because we thought we were going to win. That's why we had these t-shirts printed up. And then that all comes together and it, just makes a little bit more sense. And it's also like, maybe they invite Mike Tyson to the party and that's why he's there, instead of just being like, hey, we know Mike Tyson's going to be here, but we don't really have any reason for him to be here until Chris Jericho brings up this thing from Raw. So that's all. Just like, and I was going to mention the Cody truck thing here too. Like, again, they go back to these same spots in close chronological time to each other. And it's like, spread those out and give each one a little more room to breathe.
No, I think I think it's totally a valid point. And something that I think I've noticed sometimes is the show after a pay-per-view, it seems like that they, other for stuff that they have planned out much longer in advance, it does seem like it's like, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to do this. And I mean, when Bentley and when we were looking at this card Wednesday morning before they announced the full card, which I assume is because of going through health protocol, there wasn't a whole lot out there that was out there to begin with. So it's one of those things that I think we've started to notice that, you know, when these like things happen, like when a big show happens, it does seem like things for like the first week or so need time to like crystallize and ramp up. And usually it's like the ideas here because yeah, the whole tag team situation thing, like they've tried to do buys before in the tag team division and it came off really dumb with the tag team championship tournament. Like where it was like you win the match and you win the match to get the buy to just have one less match, but you've already had 2 matches to do so. Like it seems to like be like a weird quirk of theirs. And it does seem like there's these things that, and I feel like this happens on these like show after pay-per-views that it seems a little bit more loose and not as tight and as like tunnel visioned as things are in the lead up to the pay-per-view itself.
I think what they're trying to do is we want every match to have some sort of stakes, right? Or some sort of purpose. And that's great, but it's also not possible if you want the stuff with real stakes to actually matter. Like sometimes you just have to have matches, just like the NBA plays 82 games a year, you know, and, you know, 30 of them matter or whatever. So, yeah.
Which that's also how you could use the ratings or the rankings rather of like, oh, we got number 2 versus number 3 and whoever wins is going to be probably next in line or, you know, that's what I always hoped they were going to do with the rankings and the wins and losses is you can give stakes to things without having to make them seem bigger than they are. But since they've abandoned that, they've got to come up with these other ways. And, you know, you hear Tony talk about, oh, I booked out this month or 2 months of TV, you know, from the beginning. But then sometimes it feels like they're flying by the seat of their pants. So it's hard for me to understand what the long-term planning is sometimes.
Yeah, and it is just because we haven't really mentioned it. Give them half a pass because it's COVID and they're, you know, have had to change plans and stuff and do stuff with no crowd and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I do think the alley thing is going to make sense in the end, but I agree. So. But I agree with you that how hard would it be for JR to say, "What's Allie doing in a red dress?" I mean, he's horny anyway.
Right. You know, that's a good looking dress, but that's not what she normally wears.
Right. That's so easy to lampshade, as Nate would say.
Yeah, thank you. As someone pointed out on our Twitter, also, they've canonically mentioned that Allie is married to the Blade, right? It's been on a road to, I think. So,
yeah, it was on one of the Zoom calls that they did. They brought them in on. Yeah.
So, like, okay. Hey, QT, maybe watch the product, and then you'll know that this is another man's wife.
He was on the Zoom call.
What the fuck? I mean, I know, yeah, she eats an apple. I know that's super arousing, dude, but...
well, you know, for QT especially.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, your delete?
Oh, you know what this is going to be. The one thing that pissed me off so much, and that is the fact that during this TNT title #1 contendership tournament, they already started to tease the inevitable, eventual big league turn where MJF gets turned on by Wardlow. He gets put 6 feet under, and Wardlow becomes the ace of the universe, the once-in-a-century talent, Mr. High Energy himself. So it's just so infuriating, like the idea of that, especially stuff around MJF. It doesn't seem that they want to let things simmer. They don't like have the idea of, oh, let's see where things are like next year with this. Because there's no reason why Wardlow should be teasing a break of MJF right now. It's incredibly short-sighted when you could get so much more mileage out of, okay, maybe if you're going to make this into a route you want to do by the end of the year, maybe what you have here is that MJF accidentally clocks him with the ring and that's it. You don't need like the two of them going nose to nose afterwards. You don't need to have the awkward thing during their promo, the face off there. And it's just one of those things that I don't know why with MJF and Cody, that was something that felt like could have been 18 months to 2 years of a feud that compressed into 4 months. I don't know why MJF and Wardlow's only been around since before Full Gear or before Revolution, right? Yeah, no, his first match was the Atlanta cage match before Revolution. So someone that's been in the company for such a short period of time, there's no reason why you have to accelerate here unless like the plan is immediately that Wardlow is going to become your champion, because he should be. He's already my canonical AEW Dark champion. But it's just one of those things that it frustrates me sometimes, and it seems to be all around MJF that they feel like that they have to expedite these feuds when they could have let it breathe and let people kind of enjoy it happen little by little, month by month. Maybe something happens at All Out that could have started this thing off there. I'm glad that this is the road they're going down. It's so obvious that Wardlow has the top side to be able to be a major star, but it's one of those things that I don't think I think that they just like doing these things too quickly instead of letting things just simmer.
Yeah, I mean, now that we're a little bit away from the big MJF turn on Cody, I don't think that made either of them bigger stars or more legitimate, right? Like, it happened, they got a big reaction, but MJF is kind of back where he was, right?
Yeah, and Cody basically no-sells it.
Yeah, Cody no-sold it. Cody practically no-sold it during the match. And it just didn't, if you'd drawn that out for a year plus, like we wanted them to, you have to imagine it has more ramifications going forward in the story. And yeah, I'm teasing it is theoretically fine. Like, it's great if they want to plant a seed for something they're going to do in a year. That's awesome, because then you can look back and be like, oh wow, this was really in the makings for a very long time. But of course, we don't give wrestling companies that level of trust where we think, oh no, we're teasing it and we're gonna wait to pull the trigger on it for 12 months. Like, seems like it's developing at a much quicker pace than that. And totally with you that I would much rather see it. I would like to see like MJF is the AEW champion and Wardlow is the TNT champion before we get anywhere near that. Like, but it they, like you said, Mike, it appears they want to expedite things unnecessarily.
Maybe it's that they're planning to put MJF on top quicker than we think. And so everything has to happen with him.
But yeah, but Wardlow is a great addition to him on top.
Oh, I agree.
It's a really good act, and it's just madness to break it up for lack of better ideas.
I just realized that Cody is doing John Cena.
Oh yeah, the open challenge, yeah.
Yeah.
But also the no selling when things go bad. Like, he just shows up the next night on Raw and is like, "We're never giving up, baby. We're back." He just the Wyatt family just destroyed him or whatever, and he doesn't care the next day. That Cody's doing the same thing.
I mean, that's the peak ace energy right there. I mean,
it is.
You use executive vice president privilege to steal someone's debut. You act like nothing phases you. I mean, you cut a long promo about how you like Tom Brady.
What the fuck?
I mean, I do have to say, his fit that he had at the Memorial Day party was fantastic, though. So like, the energy is still there. It's just it's not a focused ace energy. It's just going everywhere. He's just going. He's going out there with birdshot instead of buckshot right now.
I guess he was just eating shit for so long while Cena was on top. So you can't help but kind of take some of that into your brain or internalize some of that of like, oh, I guess this is how you're supposed to be on top. I don't know.
Yeah, which is not totally wrong. Like, there is elements of truth to that, but
sure.
Yeah, you would like to see him pay respect to that stuff and be like, oh, MJF's still somewhat important to my character or whatever.
Yeah, there's he has more of a long-term story with Sean Spears than he does with MJF at this point. There wasn't a whole lot on this show that was actively bad. I think you guys have talked about the two things that were the worst parts of the show. Honestly, I thought this was a really good episode. So the only other thing that I really didn't care for was the Kip Sabian, Jimmy Havoc versus SCU match, which wasn't awful. I don't really have, I guess I'm deleting this, but really I just would have made it 10 minutes shorter or whatever. I think we got 2 segments for this.
It's the Kip Sabian rule. It's the Kip Sabian rule.
I mean, I am trying to be high on the weird British basement team, but so many people in this promotion that can't get on TV, and these guys just seem to get so much time.
Yeah, anybody who was in the Discord last night can confirm that I was when Kip Sabian's name popped up, I was like, what the fuck? Why is he on TV again? He's on every show. And we're now at the point where there's more people around. It's not like the weeks when there just weren't enough people and he had to work. It's like, come on.
I mean, you could have put Fabu Andre and Tony Donati in this match.
You could have. And if you feel like Kip is a star and you just got to have him on TV, at least like just let him second Penelope. Like that act is so much better to me than this. But it's what we got. So we'll of course run down the rest of the show in just a minute. Before that, we're going to talk about the ratings, which came out earlier before we recorded at the same time they do every week. Not sure why I felt that information was important, but I did. So AEW up huge, 827,000 people watching the big go home or not go home angle, come home angle. I don't know.
The backlash, baby.
Up to fourth in the demo, and frankly, tied for third in the demo. They probably were ranked fourth because they had lower overall viewers, but tied for third in the demo. A 0.32 up from a 0.26. NXT also had a big boost, 592 to 731,000, up to 24th in the demo, and a 0.19.
Yeah, this was both of their biggest shows since the first few weeks of the COVID outbreak. I did see that the god Brandon Howard Thurston put out a clip of showing how the demos have moved and comparing it to Monday Night Raw, where both NXT and AEW's Prime demo tied Monday Night Raw, which, that's something. The biggest gain was for the men 18 to 49, a huge jump. They went from a 0.31 to a 0.4 flat. And, this is something like this that we were kind of saying like, oh, wait, all these shows are ending off TV. And that coincided perfectly for the pay-per-view. And that also coincided with Memorial Day week. And now the only stuff that was really ahead of them was the Real Housewives and the Challenge. I didn't know the Challenge still existed until we started doing ratings, but it's been on air for like at least like 10 weeks so far. It has to be finishing up soon. And then, as you said, yeah, they were tied for third. Other, I guess, notes, Double or Nothing projections are not in as the time we're recording this. Should be sometime today. The one thing I'll stress that I know we've talked about before is there was a false report earlier that there was a number thrown around that was like a projection of 98,000 to 113,000, but they were citing Dave Meltzer's projections from last year at Double or Nothing. There is no numeral projection yet. It does seem to be trending pretty high, but no one has given an indication of how high it is. I know like someone made like Mike Johnson or someone said that Mike Johnson said this was their highest selling pay-per-view, which is something that I went back and looked and I couldn't find it necessarily. But, big week for both programs. AEW, this is just like looking at everything for AEW. This was a big jump back, and it's actually better than some of the lead up to Revolution this week's ratings were.
And I think they did if they were anticipating a bump from the pay-per-view, I think they did a great job of starting the show with Young Bucks, Matt Hardy, the FTR debut, Brian Cage, Jon Moxley. Those are like all the acts that you see to start the show. And also selling, that Mike Tyson's going to be on this show later. So I'll be interested in the quarter hours, if Dave has those, to see if they kept it up through the show. And I would imagine, who knows, ratings are very fickle, but I would imagine they put out a lot of their biggest stars. I would imagine they'll be able to keep a lot of this audience for next week.
Yeah, I do. I thought it was a well-constructed show. And like you said, that all those things should be stuff that keeps the attention of maybe people that just heard the Stadium Stampede buzz or the Mike Tyson buzz and they wanted to see what it was about. I just, for whatever reason, little things just didn't seem to be executed their full potential, in my opinion.
The show started off with the Inner Circle sitting next to a box truck. They let us know that they bought a truck full of Inner Circle Stadium Stampede champion shirts. And unfortunately, now they don't know what to do with all these shirts.
Ortiz extremely funny here, selling his hearing damage from the bell spot.
Yes, these guys are so good. I mean, this whole act is excellent at this point, hitting on all cylinders. Matt Hardy is backstage with the Elite. Kenny kind of looks, weird at the beginning of this. And Adam Page says he's going to go back to the hotel for a drink. He obviously looks as uncomfortable as he always does with the Elite. But Kenny says he's also going to go, but he'll have a glass of milk. And they exit. And the Young Bucks say, I guess we have Damascus out there. And the Young Bucks say they were hoping for a different version of Matt Hardy. And so he comes back a couple times, and then they finally settle on the right era of Matt Hardy for the match they're going to have on this show.
Okay. So I think Matt Hardy needs to do like a digest explaining all of his different versions. He tweeted that this was the Young Bucks and Surge.
Yeah, from Omega.
Like the drink. Yeah, which I presume was his Omega gimmick. Like when he and Jeff Hardy were, doing backyard shit.
They're wrestling the back way.
The back way. Well, see, I said that because no, I don't know why I said that. I thought I read the word way while I was looking at his wiki here. But he has all these fucking gimmicks, and we're not familiar with all of them. Of course, we know version 1.0, we know Team Extreme, we know Broken Matt Hardy. There's also High
Matt.
Voltage, Big Money Matt. There's the Blood Runs Cold Matt era with the ice pick. But then we've got Surge. We've got the Rawway Reaper. We've got Ishan Hardy, Angus Jinx.
I wonder what Angus Jinx is. That's the one I'm interested in.
High Voltage Matt Hardy.
Okay.
There's also one that just says Wolverine, which I assume was him like doing a Wolverine cosplay. In which case he should team with Brian Cage as a team of Wolverines. But we just need like he does these gimmicks on BT where he explains wrestling terms to us. He needs to explain all of these different eras because they're not all, as well known as most of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's something from his Mind Palace that unless you are really dialed into Matt Hardy, you're not going to exceptionally know. But we had one of our 2 appearances of Hangman, so it's time to play the Hangman meter. So last week we had Nate at a 4. Of course, this is 1 to 10. 1 being the most blue-eyed babyface possible, 10 being the most dastardly heel possible. Nate had Hangman at a 4. Aaron, you had him at a 1. You thought he was big-time babyface. I had him at a 2. So our Hangman meter index was at 2 1/3. So with Hangman here, what do you think he cashed in at?
I'm going to call this, I'll move him up to I'm just going to fuck with your fractions as much as possible. 3.5.
Okay.
On the Hangman meter. He was doing some wholesome bonding experience with Kenny in the hotel room. Kenny had his milk. Hangman was drinking. He was a victim of the surveillance state, so that sort of makes him a baby face. But as a consequence of that wholesome bro time, he was not able to save the Young Bucks from the Butcher and the Blade attack.
Okay.
So moves a little bit more baby face, but he's not a totally pure boy yet.
No, that's fair. AB, where do you have him at?
I'm actually going backwards. I'm gonna have him at a 2.
Well, he couldn't get much more babyface in your mind. So
no, I couldn't stick there. It's mainly just because I'm annoyed. I'm tired of him and the Bucks and that whole thing. I'm just like, I don't care anymore.
Sure.
Can't they do a thing where they either squash it and they're best friends again, or they just don't interact with each other on a regular level?
They cannot do that because we want things to simmer. We want there to be consistent relationships.
But this is a boring simmering.
No, it was like been the highlight of the promotion until this week.
Well, I'm bored of it.
I mean, you want this beef history video over. I just
feel like it's been simmering for so long that it's like not even.
No,
it's not even hot.
You need some patience from Aaron Bentley here.
I have no patience on this. Now, they are doing something interesting, I think, here with Kenny seeming to maybe start to lean more toward Paige and away from the Bucks, perhaps. I'm not sure what the deal with that is. But I'm out on elite dissension. This is like catch point shit at this point.
Okay, that's fair. I'm saying it at 2. I don't think he's really done anything that was more evil or more babyface. I still think that he was pretty solid. I mean, he was hanging with his bro, and then he wasn't there for all of his bros, so he's not a pure babyface. So doing a bit of math real quick, because I know that that's what people listen here for, had about a 2.8. So a little bit less facious this week, but that's it for the Hangman meter. The boot, if the boot of beer has got more beer poured into it this week, I think we decided, because we had the boot of beer. So yeah,
it's very difficult without a graphic.
Yeah. We need to get to a web show version of this.
Yes, we'll turn your whiteboard into a green screen, baby. Actually, you have a green screen, I think.
Yes.
You pulled it out one week.
I do have a green screen that I could be doing official Hangman meter things.
We'll never talk Nate into doing a web show.
Never will.
This led right into a 6-man match. The Young Bucks, Matt Hardy, defeated Joey Janela and Private Party. Matt Hardy pinned Isaiah Cassidy after a more bang for your buck. After the match, this is when the Butcher and Blade attacked the Bucks. They jumped out. The Butcher
they set that up because Nick Jackson got thrown into the Butcher and the Blade, who were sitting at ringside, which, they did a great job on attention to detail in this segment by setting up that attack by the Butcher and the Blade. They had a reason for Matt Hardy to go to the back because he had to go help Mark Quinn to the back, even though Mark Quinn was not really injured. It was just a little angle to have an excuse there. So great continuity, attention to detail stuff here.
Just a quick point of interjection. It's a 2.5. I can do division. Don't at me.
You might have to go back and edit that in the first time, so you don't.
No, I'm not going to bother.
Intervening 30 seconds.
I'm not going to bother. I get owned online all the time. I'm used to it.
Now that I think about this, okay, I like the Butcher and the Blade attack. The Butcher in fucking all white with his hair not wet, because it's been dried up by the heat. I mean, it's very funny, like real. I think I saw someone say there was a lot of Coke energy in the final segment, but I feel like the Butcher had real Coke energy with his whole look here. But okay, FTR drives up in a truck as we talked about recently to save the Bucks, kind of, but why? They weren't watching backstage; they were in a truck. I mean, are they streaming this on the TNT app?
No, they just happened to be driving to sign their contracts, and they came directly to the arena, is my presumption.
All right.
But, they wanted to put the Bucks on notice, but, there is an element of respect there or whatever, so they did that.
Yeah, they can build this to it can be a face versus face thing. It can be, they've already done this a little bit, but it can be more of a vision thing, what is the vision for tag team wrestling? If they want to build it that way. Or the Revival can go full heel and just do the indie type shit, and flippies, and they can do that thing.
I think if we get crowds back that they'll be received as heels is my guess, but I don't really know, because certainly their original appearance would have gotten a big, giant pop just from excitement. But I'm thinking they'll be regarded as sort of contrary to, standing opposite the Bucks and the Elite.
What do you think their theme stinger is going to be?
I don't like these stingers. No stingers.
No, I'm out on stingers.
Okay. I mean, we're not getting anything as bad as Say Yeah.
No, that's better than Who Can Stop the Path of Cage.
Who Can Stop the Path of Cage is not good. The MJF one also not good. I don't like them ever. You should be able to just write a song that has a stinger in it.
The only good one ever is The Rock, of course.
Even that, it's a little, I don't know.
But his music wasn't really that good, so I felt like the stinger kind of made the theme.
Right, that is a dimension to it for sure. It would have been a terrible song for anybody else probably, right. But The Rock was just so over and full of charisma that he made anything work.
Didn't matter. Moxley came out on commentary for the next match, which was Brian Cage defeating Lee Johnson, Big Shotty Lee, with the drill claw. Apparently, Lee Johnson cannot stop the path of Cage.
Okay, here's a tangent.
All right.
Are you guys Jim Johnson should be in the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame guys?
Yeah.
Don't really give a shit.
Okay. I'm not. I, wrote some good songs, certainly some better songs than we've seen in AEW or other promotions, but really no song is persuasive to me that he's, better than replacement talent in that position.
I mean, the way that my argument for Hall of Fames in general is, can you tell the story of whatever you're covering without this person? And I think that Jim Johnson, for a lot of different ways, you can't tell the story of the Attitude Era without Jim Johnson really coming aboard and having those themes, especially in comparison to how the themes were primarily under
Jimmy Hart.
Under Jimmy Hart. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Thank you. I almost said Teddy Hart. That would have been bad. But under Jimmy Hart, I think that he definitely deserves it to an extent that I feel like that nearly every theme composer since then apes his thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Jimmy Hart had some good songs. I just feel like you probably could have taken any competent studio composer musician and gotten stuff that was at least almost as good as those Attitude Era themes. And it certainly wouldn't have made a difference to Stone Cold Steve Austin getting over.
You better hope Andrew T. Rich is not listening to this episode.
I mean, yeah. Hi, Andrew, if you're listening.
I don't know, dude. I mean,
I just
Steve Austin obviously would have gotten over anyway, but the glass breaking is fucking iconic.
yeah, but
That's a great stinger.
sort of Steve Austin makes it iconic, right?
Yeah, I guess, but there's something about having something where you immediately know who it is, and there's no question about it. And he was really good at that.
The glass break is the certainly the best case scenario for a stinger.
The gong.
Yeah, The Undertaker is also, that's really good music.
I mean, the only reason why we're talking about singers is because this guy really made singers into such an important thing.
And now they're mostly bad.
That's true.
Largely,
Is that his fault though?
It's not his fault. This is the War Games argument, by the way.
Right? Yeah. I mean, this
Yeah.
is the Dusty argument.
Right. Because it eventually got bad doesn't mean it was always bad. So, I mean,
Exactly.
entrance music was just like guys picking their favorite popular song and just coming out
Dusty-
to it.
sound
That's-
like versions. Yeah.
Yeah. Dusty coming out to Purple Rain because he knew it was popular and he had a purple robe. I mean,
Right. So Jim Johnson did I think he changed the world of entrance themes in a lot of ways. I mean, Jimmy Hart did the fucking Sexy Boy, so I mean, that's one of the best themes of all time.
no, that theme sucks.
No, that theme rules.
It's garbage.
That's definitely one of the better ones.
That's a great one. Great one.
I will take you who can stop the path of Cage over Sexy Boy.
That's insane. That's
Well, funny,
insane.
I can't even hear the Path of Cage actual song in my head.
No.
But a stinger is, I like Taz
100%
just
bored stinger.
I like Taz just not being completely audio balanced, just shouting out who could stop the path of Cage.
He didn't even
Stop a
try.
path.
No, you don't. Let me tell you about stopping paths.
Okay.
Got ground moles in my yard. Folks.
Right.
Ground mole chat.
Welcome to the Normie Cast. We're talking about lawn care. I'm here. Let's go ground moles.
I would like to stop the path of these ground moles. So I start to see a little thing, and I'm like, was there an earthquake in my yard? What happened?
You're getting like a disruption in a mound.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Not a lot of mounds, but a lot of tunnels and runways for these little ground moles, these little bastards. So then, take my dogs on a walk. They're all over the neighborhood. They're everywhere.
You got an infestation going on.
We got an infestation.
I mean, I can only talk about.
HOA.
Yeah, I mean, we have to burn down all of them. We
Yeah.
have to do that.
So I
can tell you how to take care of this.
Oh, buddy, I'm 5 steps ahead of you.
Okay, let's go.
I ordered some granules that I have to put down, although you have to do it in 3 steps. Because I was trying to do this without killing the ground mole.
You've never done granules before, dude?
Yeah, because you don't want to kill the granules, you don't want to hurt your dogs, and you don't want to kill your lawn. Yeah, you got to do it properly.
Yeah, it's
granules,
fucked.
101.
Yeah.
It's fucked up. Well, not only, so you got to do it over 3 days. So not only you start in the undamaged part of the lawn, and but you put it in a way of how you want to push the ground moles.
Right,
out.
yeah.
Okay, but then you're supposed to poke holes in the tunnels and drop every 4 to 6 feet. You drop a little 2 to 4 tablespoons of granules inside the tunnels, which is this is really in depth. Now, on top of that, so I'm doing a little belt and suspenders action here. I also got these little sonic things.
Oh yeah, because you're going to try to disrupt them out because they're going to hate the noise.
Yes, it'll sound out a little thing that'll irritate them. So, gonna try both. Sorry for all the ground mole lovers who are listening, but if those 2 don't work, I will be calling an exterminator. It'll be time.
Well, you don't know the problem is if it was just isolated, I would say you can call animal control, and usually what they'll do, because I grew up with an armadillo infestation. And armadillo infestations, they're different kind of animals, but you kind of want to treat it around the same way.
I like that he grew up with an armadillo. It's not that he just had one.
Oh no, it was continuous.
His whole childhood was armadillo.
No, there was about a solid 3-year period where armadillos kept on coming back, because the thing about armadillos are you really don't want to touch them because they have forms of leprosy that could be transmutable, and
armadillo leprosy.
Yeah. So what you do is you get special cages.
You gotta get granules for that.
Well, you don't want to get granules because you're gonna get too close to things. Those things are nasty as hell. You got to get special cages, and then what you have to do is they get into these cages, and the door comes down. It's nonviolent. That the armadillo is not harmed with this, and the reason I know this is because my dad because I might have been like 8 or 9. You're not going to send a 9-year-old out there to go try to stop an armadillo infestation, right? You're this is an adult stuff. He tried to take a garbage can, like a 40-gallon drum, and try to like trap it there. I'm like, Dad, don't you know that armadillos, they can crawl? And then how are you going to like get the lid underneath it? So you flip it over and you close down the armadillo, because the problem with armadillos are you can't like just trap them and let them go. You have to confuse them first because they can home in. Because like
I have heard that.
The same fucking armadillo. Like there was a body of water near us called Binbrook Lake, man-made, because there's only one real lake in Texas. But we dropped it off there. Motherfucker came back. So you got to be careful about these things. You have to trick the ground moles because they might have the same homing mechanism. Thank you all for listening to Normie Chat. We will rebuild society with people who have the PhDs in herbology, because they have lawn wizardry and they understand more about this than anyone else does.
If we should ban lawns.
I agree.
Oh, I absolutely ban them. But the people who understand, like the stump guy, I have trust for like these kind of people, because they will understand when society falls. I'm not going to go like, I love you both. I'm not going to like go like, hey, Nate, we're going to rebuild society like this. I'm going to someone who has like a PhD in lawn care, because those exist. And those people will understand certain things.
So you're talking about like designing a new government with the lawn care guys, or where are we at here? What do you mean by rebuild society?
No, I'm talking full on. We're going to have to like, we're bombed out, and we're going to have to like reestablish the ecosystem first, because the government's going down the line.
Okay, so I thought a lot about this. Concerned on the ecology side of things,
right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about government then, and then of course at that time I'll consult both of you, and we'd figure this out here. I mean, if we're going to be working towards eco anarchy.
How did you become the leader in this?
I said it was an eco
apocalyptic.
Because I don't be friends with the long guy. Because he's gonna be like a wizard.
Connections.
Yeah, you gotta have a guy.
If none of this stuff works, I'm going Willie McNabb from Arkansas solution. And I will be taking an AR-15 out into my lawn and killing the ground moles.
That's a lot of ground moles for that. How many wild hogs is it? And you can tell the difference from people who've actually dealt with wild hogs and people who didn't deal with wild hogs. People who did are like, no, that makes sense. Like, it sucks.
What about people? What about people who watched Wild Hogs, the film?
I mean, the person who watched that's Vince McMahon. So.
It's I think that's part of the Criterion Collection on HBO Max, which is now available.
Now, yeah, advertising opportunities available. Kevin Riley.
That's right here.
The new king of all media.
Okay, so Taz came out after this match. Taz kind of, similar to a ground mole, I would say.
He was already out. He was managing.
That's true. That's true. He was already there. He tells Mox that he respects him because he paid his dues. Became successful, became the top guy. But at Fyter Fest, you're going to be dealing with something different. You're going to be dealing with a machine. Come Fyter Fest, Mox should bring his fight and his heart that he's known for, because Brian Cage is going to tear his heart out of his chest. And then he has to hit his catchphrases. He says, Mox, that's Brian Cage, the machine. Beat him if you can. Survive if he lets you. If they got to do a stinger at the top of the song, it should be that.
Survive if he lets you.
Yeah.
Beat him if he can. There's no stinger.
No stingers. I agree.
Only one stinger in this promotion, and that's the Insane Icon.
Nice. I liked it. Took me a second, but I liked it.
what a just genuine laugh.
That's a 10 of 10. 10 of 10. Well done.
Yeah, I liked it. Next up, Britt Baker comes out in a wheelchair. She's there with Tony Schiavone. She's pushed in the wheelchair by Reba, her good friend. And she's got to sign.
Her name is really Rebel, of course.
Reba, right? The rules of being a role model. Rule number 3, don't hurt the role model. She says, last week, the brutal tandem assault on me wasn't an accident. It was a conspiracy. And she says, here's Exhibit A. And she shows pictures from her being injured. She says she's close personal friends with top TNT executives. Without her, there is no women's division. Flip it, Reba. And Reba does indeed flip it.
Her name is Rebel.
Reba flips it. And then she's basically saying that everyone involved was conspiring against her. She says Chris Statlander, the alien thing, is a crock of shit, conspirator. Sheeta broke my nose, fraudulent champion, conspirator. And she says, Nyla, she's seen her come off the top rope with precision and grace hundreds of times. Conspirator. This leads to Reba getting another board with red string pulled between the pictures. She says, here we have a web of evil, all centered on Aubrey Edwards. Is it a coincidence she just happens to be around every time I get injured? Concussion, Aubrey was there. Broken leg, Aubrey was there. Broken nose, Aubrey was somewhere, right? Because she's put everyone on notice. They tried to take her out, but the joke's on her because she will be back at All Out.
Tremendous segment.
This was almost my pick this was the second best executed thing on the show. So it was almost my elite pick.
Yeah, this was just well done all throughout. I like how they had the Law and Order stinger playing a little bit, talking about good stingers. That's a sound effect we all can enjoy.
Yes.
I also like the fact that Aubrey later tweeted. I forget what the exact tweet was, but it was really sad, and it just seemed like, why are you going against Aubrey? Aubrey of all things like this. I thought that this was a great use of everyone involved in this segment. I think Rebel's great in this role, kind of building off of what happened with the original rules of being a role model thing, and Tony as always was solid. And I like that they made sure that we had the red string. You had to have the red yarn to connect the dots, and I appreciated that this happened. This was a knockout across the board.
Hey, man, I think my criticism of Britt for a long time was fair, and I also think she has worked her ass off to become one of the best promos in the whole fucking company, and my hat is off to her. She's doing really great work right now on the mic. We'll see. You have to believe in her at this point, don't you? That she'll get better in the ring. I mean, she clearly has spent a lot of time with. She's talked about this with Chris Jericho, talking about working on her character. She wasn't really comfortable with going heel, but she's done it, and she's done a great job. So, kudos to Britt.
I mean, I always said that she had the potential to be, capable and hold her own in the ring. I believe you guys were the ones going down her whole match history and time in the business and match counts and all this, and saying she was a lost cause. So
still really bad.
I guess you should ask yourself that question if you should believe in her.
I try not to really interrogate myself too much or think about my own thoughts. Really.
Yeah, I mean, that just leads into bad self. I mean, you had me 5 minutes talking about armadillos and how if I was going to rebuild society, I was going to talk to
you. Do not need to interrogate that part. That part is on point, Mike.
Okay. I mean, I think that she does, and she's done pretty much through the entire last 2 months. Has been the most genuinely entertaining person on the show up until the pay-per-view. I thought she had the best match on TV between her and Hikaru Shida. I feel like that she's coming to her own. And I mean, if it becomes more consistent thing match-wise, I will take that L when that happens. I just think that she's crossed the necessary thing that she's entertaining now enough that I can sit through a not necessarily great match because I think that she's an amusing enough character. If the other part comes along, then yeah, I'll admit that I was wrong about that.
I probably won't. Just being honest with everybody. Inner Circle is with Alex Marvez. Jericho says the Inner Circle Pep Rally is going to be one of the great events in AEW history as they're getting back on track. Orange Cassidy walks through the background and then off screen. This irritates Jericho. He says, see you later, Orange.
This is some Hulk Hogan shit from Jericho where he's like, put me in the segment with the highest rated guy on the show. And then this is, the long build to Orange versus Chris.
Yeah, it rules. There has to be, please, some Orange Cassidy, Mike Tyson interactions at some point.
I wonder, so we know Mike Tyson really thinks Michael Nakazawa is funny. Do we think he really likes Orange Cassidy? He probably does, right?
Oh yeah, he probably does. I mean, how can't you? I mean, Orange Cassidy, they're going to find ways to get Orange Cassidy into the biggest segments of the show at a certain point. I mean, he almost won the Battle Royal, which would have had him versus Cody. That match is going to happen eventually. There has to be some sort of Jericho Orange Cassidy thing. They're going to juice Orange for all he's worth.
Hey,
got him.
I mean, Mike Tyson clearly has an eye for comedic talent. He jumped on the Todd Phillips train very early. So, I mean, he obviously is a big Orange Cassidy fan. Next up in our one women's match on the show, Hikaru Shida defeated Christy James, who was previously seen at ringside. Was wondering why she was there. Now we know. I guess they're going to bring her in a little bit. Shida won again with the Falcon Arrow.
Solid match.
Yeah, I liked it.
I'm glad that they're that with like now Sheeta, they've now have her knee and now the Falcon Arrow, and Excalibur can now have someone hit the Falcon Arrow and he doesn't get disappointed when someone kicks out of the deal.
Christy Jane's even kicked out of a knee to the back of the head, at least. I'm not sure if that was really her finish, kicking out of her finish, but they gave her a lot here. So I don't know if she's going to stick around, but potentially a good addition based on this match, at least. Cody came out with Arn. Tony Schiavone's there in the ring to interview him. Cody asked Tony, do you know why Tom Brady is my favorite quarterback? Which is just a wild way to start off a babyface promo. I guess at least there was no crowd to react to it. But he mentions that Brady wasn't picked first, but he ended up obviously being an all-time great. I just feel like there's other people you could have chosen here. And
especially if you're in Jacksonville,
Sure.
I mean, if you're in Tampa, do that promo. Like, that makes sense. But in Jacksonville, you have to talk about Minshew.
He says in his mind, he thinks when Tony Khan thinks about building a wrestling company, he's thinking about a merit-based in-ring company. And he mentions that Cody was not the first, second, or third call that Tony made. He says he was fourth and I think he was doing the Four Horsemen thing here. I think that was the bit.
He did put up 4 fingers.
He did. He said he's not bitter, but he is proud that despite being the fourth person called, he is the first champion of the world's greatest television network, which is like, they sometimes don't want to talk about the EVP stuff, but sometimes he does mention it. So it's like,
it's very annoying.
Yeah, because it's like, Cody, buddy, we all know that you weren't just like the best wrestler and that's why you won this tournament. It's just like a weird way to go. I don't know. They try to, especially Cody tries to do like shooty stuff a lot. And then to try to do this like straight work promo, I think is
it begs unnecessary questions. It does.
I'm an armadillo here. I'm homed in. He needs to confuse me a little first.
Yeah. He's got to spin you around the circle a little bit at least, and drive a little erratically before dropping off the lake.
The on the subject of these 4 fingers, because it just happened, WrestleZone tweeted a picture of the 4 fingers and said, "If this was about a stable, who would you put in the AEW Horsemen group?" Which Cody quote tweeted with a mouthless smiley. And then Dax FTR replied and said, "Hey."
Okay, so the FTR guys could be the Arn and Tully. That would make sense if you're in that.
Along with Cody as the Flair and Arn as the manager.
Yeah, Arn in the JJ Dillon role.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then you need like the hot shot young guy, the guy on the rise. You have your Sting, your Luger, your I don't know if Barry Windham really works, but we'll go with Barry Windham anyway.
Well, are we making this
Brian Pillman?
Yeah, are we making the supposition that this is going to be a heel Four Horsemen? Because like the baby face you should have, if it's the face Four Horsemen, would be Jungle Boy. You have Jungle Jack Perry there. But if this is a heel one, you're going to be breaking a lot of continuity because I feel like it would have to be MJF for heels.
No, because he's going to be he wouldn't be the young guy to come along. He should be above that level.
Okay, so
he could steal Sammy.
Sammy, yeah,
could steal Sammy.
Could steal 10.
Don't like that. Would rather have the consistent grudge.
Okay. No, I'm talking about.
He also can't be the young guy to
Preston Vance.
Oh, 10.
Yes, 10 Preston
Sean
Vance.
Spears.
No. Sean Spears.
Too many 10s in this company.
Yeah, no. Sean Spears has not been seen since Double or Nothing, and hopefully he has become less embarrassed. Alan Angels.
I mean, not an awful choice, really. There's some guys from those. Your big shotties, your Moosas.
Your Moosas, your Mr. Grimm's.
Oh,
Mr. Grimm is already quite aside.
He's with Tyson. He's got his unit already.
And Musa did too. Musa was one of the people who brought the bubbly too.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean,
well, we're forgetting one person that should be Fabu Andre.
That's true. It could be Fabu. I mean, he's a natural babyface.
Yeah.
I think we're destined. Cody will do a Four Horsemen stable at some point.
Lock. It's a lock.
Yes. I don't know if he's going to do it already. That'd be something for him to do, I guess. But it's happening.
And it does, we're going to speak here about his promo. Maybe these are all seeds of a heel turn. And, exploiting that executive vice president privilege and putting over Tom Brady.
Maybe. Although I think it's pretty impressive, which I'll get to in just a second. But he says, my story isn't one of nepotism or favoritism. I love that he does like the George Bush politician thing of like always attack the opponent with their greatest strength. So, or I guess a better one is that he does the Eminem 8 Mile thing where he's like, all the things you're thinking about me, I'm just going to say them. But it's the opposite, right? Because he pretends that they're not true, even though they're true. So he says his story isn't one of those because he got called up when he wasn't ready. And, all the fans at home watched him grow up. He says his mother, he kind of like buries Dusty here. It says it was actually his mother who taught him about grit. That it's not about talent. He's going to outwork you. If you're someone who's critical of him bell to bell, you should judge him by what he's going to do next, which is going to be a weekly open challenge where he'll be defending the TNT title. He says, we're still in the pandemic era, no fans, but I'm talking directly to you. He looks down the barrel of the camera. Says, you blew away pay-per-view projections. We need you, so follow me.
That was another gripe I was going to make on continuity. He comes out and does an open challenge when we already have the Battle Royal set for his first challenger. And then they kind of have fixed it. Said, oh, well, it's for his first challenger is going to be determined by this. But then he's doing an open challenge. It's just like you're making it a one step too complicated. You can just wait on one of these and then not have the problem.
Yeah. I mean, this was a promo that I would have been real interested to hear how this promo would have come across in front of a crowd, because it definitely had a lot of levels, kind of like how his big go home saying that he would not, that about Jericho attacking millennials, and it kind of went up and down. He talked about not challenging for the world title. Like this did feel like one of his ones where he went for levels with it, talking about his mom, talking about like being like his mom, like background and like that, which is always something that I find real interesting when he decides to focus on his mom and brings her up, because it's one of those things that Dusty being so omnipresent with everything with Cody, I like the fact that he's more willing to go with this thing. And it's something that I think that he does, like we see, like he's been put in such a lane for so long that we don't get like the full 3 dimensions with a lot of him. So I'm glad we had that. But yeah, the whole continuity thing about, well, next week I'll have my first opponent. After that opponent, as I defend them, I'll be back next week, and then next week, and I'll stay in the ring and tell someone to come out and face me. If you would have had that as the line instead, no problem with this promo whatsoever, other than bringing up Tom Brady.
Yeah, but it's pretty impressive to start it with Tom Brady and end it as like a very pure babyface promo, a 1 on the Hangman scale by the end of this promo. So he's a talented guy on the mic. We'll see how this goes. They seem to be teasing that it's going to be people, at least some weeks, that we haven't seen before. I don't know if it's going to be like a Jeff Cobb thing where they'll bring in people maybe on a 1 week thing, or if we'll see some new people that they've signed. But they are bad at managing expectations. But I think they're telling us that new people will be coming in for these matches.
And I think that's a great way to spike interest for like, oh, here's Zack Ryder out of the blue. You can have Cody beat him. It doesn't hurt anybody because Zack Ryder, presumably won't be around. And, just give Cody a little bit of extra credibility and a good pop.
Now that's a good stinger and a theme. Woo, woo, woo.
Yeah.
Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc defeated SCU, which I talked about earlier. Kip pinned Scorpion after the see you later. Somehow, as Nate mentioned earlier, this was a number 1 contenders match. MJF video with Wardlow. He says he's clearly the breakout star in this promotion. MJF says this, of course, not Wardlow. He didn't have to come from another place to get that distinction. That's like a good thing MJF should talk about. He says also he's been undefeated for over a year, and yet he still hasn't gotten a title shot. He says he's starting to think someone in the AEW office doesn't like him. So when he heard that certain someone was having a battle royal for his first challenger, he wanted to give him some good competition, and Wardlow would also be there as his insurance. Word Dog knows what to do when we're in the final 2, except Wardlow seems a little skeptical of that. Now, this is why the lack of continuity sucks shit, because all MJF has to do is show up. He doesn't have to win a fucking battle royal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's irritating. I actually wasn't irritated about this in real time, but now that you mentioned it, Nate, this sucks ass. This is very bad. Damn it.
Just, keep your ducks in order.
Yes. Then they had the battle royal for the TNT title. Number 1 contender. Some a few things that happened here. Orange Cassidy was the last entrant. Santana and Ortiz laid him out on the ramp. Colt Cabana, after he was eliminated, took a Dark Order flyer. We'll see if that goes anywhere. And then MJF accidentally hit Wardlow with the diamond ring. That led to MJF and Wardlow being eliminated, and Jungle Boy ultimately eliminated Orange Cassidy to win. So next week we'll have Cody versus Jungle Boy.
I mean, I like Jungle Boy as the first challenger. I think that's a smart way to go. I mean, other than like the MJF stuff and Wardlow stuff, I thought that this was a pretty effective battle royal. I thought Colt being involved with Dark Order things gives him something to do. It's important for the people who aren't necessarily on TV each week to have stuff to do. And, for a battle royal match, it was a decent battle royal. We had Billy Gunn in there. It was funny. Billy Gunn coming out there.
Yeah, it's pretty tough to do a good battle royal, I think. I don't think this was one. A lot of it putting all of the goofier AEW gimmicks in the same place makes them all look that much goofier, right? Like when you see Luchasaurus in a trios match, against the Butcher and the Blade and whoever or whatever, it's like, okay, this is this guy's gimmick. He's a big guy. He's got a dinosaur mask. That's fine. But when you have a ring that's like, here's Luchasaurus and Dr. Luther, it just, it feels a little bit less major league.
I'm also just tired. I think I've said this before. I'm just tired of battle royals for number one contenders. It's like, just hate.
Yeah, well, in this context, especially, he's doing open challenges, so it's unnecessary.
Yeah.
I think normie people do like battle royals. So if you're trying to, again, catch interest from the Tyson thing and coming off the pay-per-view, I think a battle royal is something that people are like, oh, those are fun. So I get it from that perspective.
And we had a video recapping the Stadium Stampede, and that led into the Inner Circle pep rally. We got cheerleaders, some Jaguars cheerleaders out there in Inner Circle costumes. We got a drum line in Inner Circle shirts. And then Vicky Guerrero comes out in a similar outfit to the Inner Circle cheerleaders and does the introductions of all the Inner Circle members without a microphone in classic Vicky fashion. We get in the ring. Jericho says, like 5 sexy phoenixes, we will rise again. Is phoenixes the plural of phoenix?
Phoenixes?
I was going to say phoenixes.
Yeah, phoenixes.
I don't know.
We're just Phoenix. Actually, I should know this. My undergrad mascot was the Phoenix. It was just Phoenix. Just no Phoenixes. Just Phoenix.
It's like deer.
Right, yeah.
He says they're nice guys, so this isn't only for them. It's for all of us as well. That's why they got official Stadium Stampede merchandise. They throw the championship T-shirts into the crowd. Sammy says, guys, calm down. We didn't win, but we participated, baby. So he's got participation trophies for everyone. Santana has a New Eurekan gift basket, which my favorite part was probably giving Hager discount Timberlands. But he also gave Jericho a picture of Mark Antony, which was funny. Jericho got Sammy a scooter called the Hit Me Up Mobile. And maybe the highlight of this segment before Mike Tyson came out, Jake Hager had a poem. And JR, with his best performance in the promotion to date, JR goes, oh, God.
Who wrote the Jake Hager poem?
Chris Jericho.
Jericho?
Yeah.
No.
Dark Horse is Tony. I think
Tony
Dark
Khan.
Horse candidate is Tony Khan.
Yeah, Tony Khan.
I was going to say Tony Schiavone, maybe.
Don't know if Tony's a poet or not. It was called Happiness was the name of the poem, just so everybody knows.
And it ended with a Taken line, with a line from Taken, which was fantastic.
That was, not the most current reference, but still, he delivered it pretty amusingly.
I mean, it's not the most current reference, but, it felt in character for him that he seems like a guy who would like the movie Taken. He probably likes Liam Neeson action movies.
Yeah, I'm leaving that alone. His similarities to Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
Sammy asks Chris Jericho what he wants. What do you truly want? Jericho says what he really wants is Mike Tyson's head on a platter, because he hasn't forgotten about the angle with Hornswoggle where Mike Tyson hit him. He says ever since then he's been dreaming of getting his hands on Mike Tyson's fat head. And Sammy says he couldn't get Tyson's head on a platter, but he got him a cheese platter and a little bit of the bubbly, but the cheese platter has been picked over. The bubbly is empty. And then out comes Mike Tyson with his entourage They've got the bubbly. Mr. Grimm is there. Musa is apparently there. Gooch is there. Everybody's there. All the stars. Mike Tyson tells Chris Jericho that he's a sucker. He deserved it, what he got on Monday Night Raw. Jericho gives him a chance to apologize. Tyson instead rips off his shirt and flexes in Jericho's face and will not stop. And they just kind of push each other, and then the ring fills up and everybody goes after each other. Classic ending angle. I think we've all given all of our thoughts on this angle, so no need to retread those, but a good show, I thought. If you are taken, speaking of taken, if you're taken with our ground mold discussion, our talks about the Four Horsemen, anything really, head on over, patreon.com/everythingelite. Sign up to hear me and Mike and Nate do bonus shows that you can check out. This past Sunday, as I mentioned earlier, we did the Double or Nothing instant reaction. Every week, Mike and I preview Dynamite on a show called AEW Light, and then Nate hits you with the vlog recaps, all the big vlogs from the week.
Some of the big vlogs.
It was a big vlog week, to be fair.
It was. So that's why I'm thinking it's all the big vlogs. Generally, we drop a big show on Monday, and then we do Light on Wednesday. We also have a Discord for our patrons. So if you connect your Patreon to Discord, you'll come right into our Discord. Mike and I do live voice chats during Dark and during Dynamite, and we just generally bullshit in there at other times. This month on the Patreon, we're going to have a new This Is installment with a very special guest that I'm not going to burn yet in case, it doesn't happen. So don't want to tease something I can't deliver. Mike and I will continue the Pod Beyond series looking at old War Games matches. We're going to do a Fighter Fest retrospective and much more this month. I feel very confident. Lost on the Mountain episode 2 will also come out next month. So also dropping that for you. So head on over to patreon.com/everythingelite. We got 3 tiers. $5 gets you all the audio content that we produce. All right, next week, here's what we know so far for Dynamite. We will have Cody and Jungle Boy for the TNT Championship. Kenny Omega and Hangman Page will defend the Tag Team Championship against Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc, and Chris Jericho will be in action.
He's going against Colt Cabana.
Oh, that's right. That was announced earlier.
Yeah.
Since I made these notes.
New news. Yeah, no, that seems like it's going to be a fun thing. I mean, 2 title matches, so it's pretty heavy. But it'll be interesting to see what the next step in a lot of people's post Double or Nothing world goes.
We also found out that Fighter Fest will be happening, quote, sometime this summer. So they're not giving us a date on that yet. We don't know if it's going to happen at Daly's Place or somewhere else, if they'll wait until there can be crowds. But we're going to have Jon Moxley versus Brian Cage for the AEW World Championship, and the current tag team champions at that time will take on the Best Friends.
Yeah, and this is what Tony said was supposed to take place in UK. This was supposed to be the first big UK show this year. Did not seem like if they knew if they stated if it was going to be like last year, was going to be on BR Live or not. So who knows? So yeah, interesting that they're going back to this when they've abandoned these like little mini shows after they started TV.
Well, and there is a lot of conspicuous HBO Max promotion on this most recent episode, so that could be another avenue.
Yeah. Should we talk a little bit? We've gone a little long here, but should we touch on HBO Max before we go?
That's all I was going to say.
Okay. HBO Max, which is something that I believe like we've pretty much been talking from the start of their thing, has been announced. Looks like something that there's doing a lot of synergy with it. And I know HBO Max has talked about having live events in the future. So it'll be an interesting thing to keep an eye out in the future, at least in my opinion.
I agree. I'm interested to see how it goes. The one other thing I wanted to mention briefly, Caleb Conley, the Premier Athlete brand. So this is
member of the scene.
This is an interesting thing. So we talked about this, right, on the show about the letters that the lawyers wrote back and forth?
I don't know that we did.
Okay. I don't know. So let's pretend we didn't, and I'll just say it briefly. Basically, Caleb Conley and Zane Riley, is that right, Mike? Have been calling themselves the Revolt for some period of time. So the Revival come out and they start kind of suggesting they're going to be called the Revolt. Caleb Conley, Zane Riley, hire a lawyer, fire off a letter, cease and desist. We've already established this mark. And the Revival hired a lawyer who wrote back to say, we're not planning on being called the Revolt, so shut the fuck up. Don't care. Then, amidst all that, Caleb Conley was advertised for AEW Dark in a tag match. A lot of, suggestion that maybe this had something to do with that whole situation. A little settlement, perhaps, considering that we all thought the Revival were coming in, which they did. But it was advertised all day on Wednesday, and then it just didn't happen on the show. It just seemed to be cut. And Caleb Conley even expressed surprise on Twitter that the match was cut from Dark. So, I mean, I don't have any analysis or news on this. I just think it's interesting. Thought Nate had a take he was about to fire off, and it just didn't come.
No take.
Those
are the facts. Just lay out the facts.
Okay. So I guess the take chopper is
winding down. Been a long week.
It has.
Toward that TGIF feeling.
That's right, baby. When you're hearing this, it probably is F.
Shit, yeah. F and yeah.
Wow. Clearly, it's time for us to wrap this thing up. So make sure
everybody go stream the new Lady Gaga Blackpink single out today or yesterday if you're listening to this on Friday.
That's right. Yeah, do that. Follow us on Twitter at Everything AEW. I'm at Aaron Like the Car. Nate is at Epitasis. Mike is at Fuji Heya. Subscribe to the show. Give us a rating. Give us a review. And please check out patreon.com/everythingelite. I think that's it for this week. For Mike, for Nate, I'm Aaron. We'll see you next time.